Welcome everybody. Welcome to Turndog Talks 2. I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Ewer of Leaving Work Behind, someone who left his job around about 18 months ago, I believe, and started taking life in his own hands, and is a very much a modern day online entrepreneur who blogs and does freelance work and informational products. So Tom, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Excellent. Well, this interview is in aid of The Successful Mistake, the book I'm working on. So we're going to talk to Tom about the mistakes he's made and how he overcame them. So, Tom, to start with, please just give us a bit of an insight into who you are and what it is that you do.
Yep. Okay. Well, these days I am a freelance blogger, and I suppose what you call a professional blogger as well. So I write blog posts for pay. Quite simply, and also I have my own blog where I have my own product, affiliate marketing, a few different things like that, which generates an income as well. So that's kind of where I am in a nutshell. Where I've come from, I was a commercial property manager going back to 2011, and during 2011 I decided that I was happy in my job. It was a good job, but I decided that I wanted to create something of my own. I guess I had this kind of inbred entrepreneurial spirit, which I couldn't shake off. So although the job was great, it just wasn't ever going to be enough for me. So I decided to try and figure out a way to quit my job and launch a sustainable business, which resulted in about 9 months of trial and error, lots of failure, of course, but eventually hit upon a successful winning formula with the freelance blogging. And really, I've just spent 2012 building the business gradually, and hope to continue to do that through 2013.
Excellent. And it really is the mantra of a modern day journalist, really, isn't it? Taking online, setting up your own website, doing some freelance guest posts, and it can lead to working for some really luxurious magazines and online sites and open up massive avenues, as well as working for companies of a variety of aspects, really. And freelance here, copywriting there, it all adds up to quite a good lifestyle.
Yeah, it's very varied, like you've kind of alluded to there. For instance, I've just picked up a client. This is the Conan Doyle estate. It's obviously the author of Sherlock Holmes and all that kind of stuff, and that's a really interesting project, and it came out of nowhere. So yeah, when you open yourself up to the possibilities, not just in freelance blogging, but just in general, to online business, you put yourself out there, you'd be surprised at the kind of things that can kind of show up without you even planning for it.
Yeah, and you are one of Pro Blogger's 2013 bloggers to watch, I believe, which is quite an honour in itself, and especially since you've only been doing it for a year or so. Some of the people on them lists are people who've been plugging away for 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy about that. I actually got a kind of an indirect mention in 2012, and at the time got pretty excited because I thought I'd actually been featured, but I hadn't. So it was good to see that I was there this year. I was really happy to see that.
Well, congratulations on that. So we will now focus on the successful mistake side of things. So like you've alluded to, there's been errors along the ways, failures, and it's like anything, especially with the online world, because it is so easy to do the trial and error, set something up, see if it works or not, and that's great, but it also, you learn a lot through that trial and error process. So please tell us a tale around this big mistake that you made and the journey into it, and then how you overcame it.
Yeah, sure. Well, fortunately, there's not been that many big mistakes. I think if you're making a lot of big mistakes, then you're probably not doing something quite right. Plenty of small ones, medium ones, and certainly a couple of big ones. The one that sticks out is I decided I wanted to try niche sites, which for those who don't know is basically these small little websites that you try and build links to and rank in Google to earn a modest amount, but you build lots and lots of them, and then through the power of scalability you make a good income. And some people have made good money and do make good money with this business model. So I tried to give this a go in early 2012. And to say it didn't go well would be an understatement. At the time, I just quit my job and I wasn't even earning enough to cover my bills. And I poured about £1,000 into this, and completely just flopped. I barely made any money at all. I certainly didn't make anything net. I lost a lot of money, but barely even made any gross income. And the biggest mistake I made there was that I was too quick to attempt to scale a system that wasn't even proven. So what I did was I said to myself, I think this system's going to work, and now I'm going to scale it, which in retrospect was a fantastically stupid thing to do, because what I didn't have was a system that I knew worked. What I should have done is I should have tested the system myself with a low amount of investment and exposure to risk, really nailed it down so I knew that it was, that first of all, that I knew what I was doing, that I knew the system inside out, and then only when I knew that it was successful that I should scale it, that I went for scaling straight away. And that's how I managed to lose so much money relative to where I was at the time, with so little effect, because I threw a whole load of stuff at a system that essentially didn't work. So that would be my biggest mistake to date, without a doubt.
It is just that classic thing of you tried to run before you learned to walk, and
Exactly.
yeah, it can just sort of all come crashing down. And I suppose, was it a case also of maybe putting too many eggs in one basket? You were trying to do the niche thing really well, and it maybe stopped you from doing some of the other stuff like the freelance writing.
Well, that brings me on to a really big topic, which is actually pressing on my mind a lot at the moment: diversification. Because you're absolutely right. The worst thing you can do when you're just starting out is put all your eggs in one basket, because first of all, when you're that new to it, you don't really know what's going to work. So you should be trying lots of things. I'm not saying you should be trying them all at the same time, because you should commit to ideas and make sure you follow through with them. But you shouldn't throw everything into one idea at the cost of any other explorations you may have. And you're right, to an extent, that's what I was doing. I was really focused on this. I was pouring money into it. I was pouring time and effort into it. And in reality, it was all a lack of foresight and a lack of forethought, which led me down that road. And it was an expensive lesson, but also an incredibly important one, not only to teach me the lesson about scalability and knowing that your system's nailed down before scaling it, but also to know that diversification is incredibly important, especially when you're starting out, and you shouldn't pour all of your resources, whether it be time or money, into just one project.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you certainly need to get that right balance between doing enough but not doing too much and not doing too little. So what's it taught you then? Because you went into the niche sites, and there was a couple of years ago that was, a big booming thing. And I suppose the issue with it, it's always relied on Google. And whenever Google makes one of their big changes, I know when Panda came about, it just destroyed certain websites and it destroyed certain people who were doing that rather well. What do you now kind of look into it when you're creating a new product, you're thinking of going into a new market, maybe developing a new site? All these things, I'm sure, are on your mind now and moving forward. Has it sort of said, right, I need to research more, edge myself in slowly? What's the process that's come out of it?
First of all, don't rely on Google. That's the very first step. For me, Google is a bonus. I practice a method, what I call it incidental SEO. And basically what I mean by that is I will practice on-site search engine optimization, but only by virtue of the fact that it's kind of a side effect of whatever else I'm doing. So I write great content and that benefits for SEO, but my main focus is writing great content. I might include keywords in the title, but only if it doesn't have a detrimental impact on the quality of the content. So it's kind of incidental to the quality or makeup of the content itself. So the first thing is try and target those areas in which you can have a direct influence in. Google is not one of those things, because you can possibly get a ranking and then it can disappear the next day. Whereas if you build up goodwill or a brand loyalty, those are things that, unless you completely screw up, don't disappear overnight. So my focus is very much on, if I'm building a product or a service or whatever it may be, the first thing I'm asking myself is, can I build up a stable audience, customer base, whatever it may be? And stability is the key word. Are they loyal, and are they stable? Are they real, or are they people that are coming to you indirectly through a search engine? And for me, that's the key when you're launching anything. It's all in the audience. Forget the product. The product's secondary. What you need first is an audience. You shouldn't pour all this time and effort into a product if you don't have an audience first, which is a mistake I see people making all the time. So focus on that audience first. Make sure you can get that and it's stable and it's loyal. Build a brand, and then go and build your product. And then at that point, you've got a ready-made customer base waiting to buy it.
And that's great because I mean you were obviously putting a lot of sort of time and effort into the niche sites, but at the same time you were still building your brand at leaving work behind. And I guess it was it one of them where it kind of snuck up on you. You didn't even know it was happening, and then you woke up one day and actually thought, actually, I've got this brand, I've got these loyal readers, and I'm not taking advantage of that. I'm trying to do something different.
You've absolutely nailed it. I started leaving work behind in June 2011. I quit my job in December, and I monetized the blog in around June. I think it was around June, so it was a year later. And I didn't monetize it properly, as in kind of launch a product rather than just doing some half-hearted affiliate marketing, until November. So it was around 18 months nearly until I properly monetized that blog. And you're right, for a lot of time it was more of a hobby than a business or part of my business. It was really beneficial to me because it served as an accountability journal, and it was a lot of fun to kind of build this community. And I always had it in the back of my mind that I would monetize it and make a business of it in some way, or incorporate it into a business at least. But you're right. I found myself doing these other things and not focusing on where the low-hanging fruit was. For instance, you're trying to build a niche site, so you're trying to build a site that has no audience and make money from that. And it's like, why are you doing that when you already have an audience right here, and they're practically asking you to make a product for them? When you launch and people are just buying it, saying, I'm buying it because I know you and I trust you, you kind of think, well, this is stupid. Why didn't I do this earlier? And that's taught me something really important, which is that play to your strengths. Don't try and. I heard a quote. I think it's from the 4-Hour Workweek. I heard this recently, and it's something along the lines of, rather than trying to fill in the chinks in your armor, try and maximize where you're most powerful. So don't try and kind of plug in those gaps where you're a bit weak. Focus instead on where you're strong. So if you're a good writer, then don't try and make money from niche sites. Start doing some freelance blogging. And similarly, if you're a good marketer, don't do copywriting or work as create your own sales page for your own products, because that's what you're good at. So play to your strengths. And that works, but in terms of your abilities, and it works in terms of what you have available to you. So I play to my strengths by being a freelance writer, and in releasing a product to my blog rather than carrying on with niche sites, I play to my strengths in the sense that I already had an audience established there waiting for it.
And that's great because I remember reading your site way back before the summer, and your journey in these niche sites, it was very honest. You were very honest with your audience, and I'm guessing that was one of the big indicators of people trusted you as an individual and thought, this is someone who I'm going to come back with. And that openness is so vital these days, I feel, and going online and saying, look, I'm making mistakes week in, week out, getting a little bit better here, that's not working, and I guess transcribing that journey, that ultimately helped you build this website, this following, and now you're able to take it to the next level. And I'm guessing that's taught you a lot about your audience as well, and what they want, and now where you're going to go in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of accidental. That wasn't. It always felt natural to me, to be completely honest, because it was essentially accountability journal. Whether people are reading it or not, I needed to be honest with myself. And I found in writing these posts that not only were they kind of like therapeutic, but also in writing them, you would suddenly get a fresh perspective on what you were doing, and then I'd often change my mind as to what I was doing after having written a blog post, because I'd written a blog post. So there were so many reasons why it was beneficial, but. Yes, you're right in the sense that my audience, not literally, but almost literally told me what to write for them by virtue of the emails I was receiving, the comments I was responding to, and the posts that were most popular. It became quite clear what they wanted from me. And to me, that's the only way to build a product. Don't try and assume, we're not all Steve Jobs. We can't all say, well, I'm going to build an iPhone because I think people want it, and you just happen to be right. We're not all like that. But what you do is you build an audience, you find out what they want, and then you build it for them. And then that's never going to fail if you create a good product.
Well, one of the best in the business at that is Copyblogger, who have for a few years now started building more and more products which people are basically asking them to provide, and you just have to listen, and sort of good things will come your way. And I think it's such a fantastic journey of yours, because you had your focus in the niche sites, and which was ultimately the mistake, but without that mistake you probably wouldn't have learned so much about your audience by creating this accountability journal, which has become sort of your brand and your entire world now, and everything stems from that. So what a great story that is, to show that you can go from mistake to success in a period of what, 7, 8, 9 months. That's certainly good feeling for anyone who's sort of starting out, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly you can turn things around. For the first 6 months, from when I first started in May 2011 up to is around October-ish, I tried so many different things. None of them worked. Even to, I think the biggest success I had was I had a niche site which was earning in the region of like £2.50 per day. It was like, wow. And I'd poured God knows how many hours into this. And then, of course, Google slapped the hell out of that, and it dropped off the face of the earth. So for 6 months, I toiled away and got nowhere. And then almost overnight, on a whim, I submit a couple of pitches for freelance jobs. I get one, then I get another. And it literally, almost overnight, the whole makeup of my attitude changes. And suddenly I say, you know what, screw this, I'm going to quit my job. And I do. And it goes well. So I think people have to remind themselves that even if they've been toiling away for months and months and months, or perhaps even years, that opportunity that you might not even expect can still just be around the corner. It can be.
Just keep persevering.
Perseverance is the key, without a doubt.
And I think that's one of the keys to being an entrepreneur, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a brick and mortar store, whether it's online, whether it's freelance, or where you've got 1 million employees. Perseverance, because there will be them days which are just utter hell, but they're usually followed by pretty good times. So before we finish things up, if you could share one piece of advice to someone just starting out, a young/new entrepreneur, and you could just offer them one sage piece of wording, what would it be?
Well, it would actually be persevere, but we've just covered that. So I'll try something else. If we've got perseverance now down, and that is, to be honest, more important than your ability, however you define that, I would say equipping yourself is the next best thing. And I don't mean in terms of financially or kind of like logistically, or however you want to put it. I mean literally your capacity for learning and your willingness to learn. So those are the two things. First of all, you need to understand how you can learn things more quickly and more efficiently, and you need to then apply that so that you do learn these things. Because ultimately, especially with the online economy, as it were, you are successful based upon what you know and how well you apply it. If you looked at all the kind of successful, or not all of them, but a lot of successful bloggers out there, successful online businessmen and women, they are applying what they have learned. And they've learned a lot. They've learned a lot of stuff which doesn't help them. They've, tried a lot of things that don't work, and that's where the perseverance comes in again. But most importantly, they've learned a great deal, and then they've gone and applied it. And that's the only thing you can do. You learn something, you learn it well, you learn it efficiently, then you apply it. If it doesn't work, you learn something else. If that doesn't work, you learn something else, and you just keep going, and you will hit the kind of like the golden opportunity at some point. You will. And
you have a perfect example of that. Bit of perseverance and keep applying what you learn, and good things happen. Yep. Well, Tom, thank you very much for joining us. Your insight has been fantastic, and I'm sure those watching and listening will agree with me 100%. I'm very excited to see where your direction goes in 2013 and beyond. I'm sure we'll see leaving work behind grow and grow and grow, and it'll be very interesting to see what your story unveils in the following months. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you.